His real name is Super Jayain. He likes to read and watch Dragon Ball. He will make you pay. Super Jayain. Vegeta is his favorite of them all. This fantastic podcast is up for you to hear, and the topic is human limitations. Dun, 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 dun.
The opening to Dragon Ball. I like it.
I like it. Rhyme Style and Quaman may have 100,000 subscribers, but can they sing like me? That's what I want to know. Do they have the pipes that Daddy has?
Rhyme Style couldn't rhyme like you could, man. So technically, you're a better rhyme and rapper than Rhyme Style is.
Well, I don't know about that, but you may be right. Maybe one day we'll find out. We should have a Dragon Ball themed rap battle. That would be pretty awesome.
Just gonna say that. Have a Dragon Ball Z rap off. See who's better.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. That sounds like fun. So, as I said in the song, of course, this is D, and that's J. And in case you didn't know, check out his channel, Super Jayain, and that's spelled Jayain, not Jai. Y. Yeah, it's Jayain. So it's like Jayain.
Yeah, well, it's gotta have my name first, so it's gotta make sense.
Because your ego can't handle not having to be there, right?
That's it. You've got it. Yeah.
Right. So as we said in the song here, as I said in my lovely song with my beautiful singing voice, and ironically enough, I record. Everybody's got their own little microphone when they do their YouTube and their podcast. I'm using a Guitar Hero microphone, which is kind of wacky because everybody's like, get this one. I'm using this Guitar Hero one, and it's okay. I mean, do I sound all right?
You do. You sound fantastic.
All right. Well, thanks. As I said, we're talking about human limitations, and what that means, what we're basically talking about is how strong can the humans in Dragon Ball get. Now, before we continue, this has been a big debate amongst a lot of fans, who the strongest human is. And when we say human, we're talking about basically the non-Saiyajin, non-Manamic Seijin, if you want to go real Japanese, characters. Now, obviously, the most powerful of the humans is Oob. I mean, would you agree with that?
Yes, no one can debate that. From canon material or non-canon material, he is the strongest human, hands down.
You know what's interesting, Jay, is a lot of fans, a lot of Dragon Ball fans, not a lot, but a couple of them have actually questioned have actually questioned whether or not Oob and Pan are canon. And I'm like, wait a minute, did you not see the last 4 episodes or 3 episodes of Dragon Ball Z? Like, I feel like the GT, the fact that they have such a presence in GT, I think that people forget that they were there at the very end of Z. They were the last 2 new characters that Toriyama introduced, along with Bra.
Yeah,
it's interesting. People forget about that little time skip.
Check the manga, guys. They're in the manga, so they're canon.
Yeah, I mean, they're at the end of the story. The story ends with Goku and Oob flying off. So anyways, so what we were talking about off air that led to this topic was the fact that it seems like, judging from all the material we've gotten, including the 2 new movies, spoiler alert, not major spoilers, but minor spoilers, Goku and Vegeta are constantly getting stronger, constantly now are getting more and more power. So do these guys have limits? I mean, is there a limit to how strong they can get? They've got, the God power, they've got SSJ power, they've got, Zenkai boosts forever, gravity training they can do all kinds of different wacky stuff, and it seems like they always get stronger to the point where they're going to be able to compete with gods, with legitimate gods and characters like gods. Do the humans have any, is it just a Saiyan thing, or can the humans do this too? That's the kind of the question we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, I think that the Saiyans obviously have no roof over them. That's been proven time and time again. And really, it's up to Akira Toriyama and the story and how he wants to progress the story, because as we know in Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball universe, anything's possible really, because that's just the type of universe it is, and that's why we find it so interesting. Do I think characters like Krillin and Tien are on the level of even a Super Saiyan by the end of Z? No way. But does that say they couldn't eventually get there through training? Well, I think in Dragon Ball, anything's open. Anything can happen. Yeah.
It's interesting because... Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, that's just basically... Yeah, that's how I see it. I don't find Krillin and Tien as strong as even a Super Saiyan by the end of Z, but they definitely... Could they get there? Yeah, they could.
Well, the one thing about the 7-year time skip from the Cell saga to the Buu saga is that a lot of characters actually got weaker because of the fact that they kind of became civilized. Krillin, I feel, my opinion, Krillin is weaker in the Buu saga than he is in the Cell saga. He's a family man now. I don't think he trained. I really don't think that he trained at all, actually. You can just kind of tell. He's kind of just there. He doesn't even do much. And then you've got Piccolo, who I don't think got weaker. I think Piccolo still trained, but I do think he kind of fell behind. And then you've got other characters like Tien, who I know continue to train, but he definitely has to have a glass ceiling. And it's weird, though, because the thing about Tien Shinhan's character that I find interesting from all the way back to Dragon Ball is that when he first shows up in Dragon Ball, Roshi and kind of the show and the manga kind of tells us that this guy's got a lot of potential. And if you finish watching or reading the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai when Goku and Tien had their big final fight, when 10-1, they kind of make you think that the show was going to be kind of the Goku and Tien show, like especially if you go into the Piccolo saga, because the last two guys to fight Piccolo were Goku and Tien. So again, it's almost as if they were positioning him to kind of be like the second, top good guy. But then when Dragon Ball Z comes around, obviously it's Piccolo and Gohan, and Krillin actually gets maybe not stronger than Tien, not at the early part of Dragon Ball Z, but of course later on Vegeta and Trunks and Goten will kind of take those spots, and then Tien will be kind of forgotten about. But Toriyama has to have some kind of fondness for him because he always gives him like a hope spot. And just so you know, like a hope spot is like a carny wrestling term for like it kind of gives him a chance to shine, so to speak. So, there was the moment in the Cell saga when he blasted Cell in the pit many times to the point where it didn't even make any sense. And then, of course, there's that little mini fight he had with Buu where he actually deflects one of Buu's ki blasts, which you would think that a blast from a being that powerful, even though it was not a planet destroyer, would still be impossible for somebody like Tien to touch, but he impressively moved it.
Yeah. Tien's one of the characters in the he's one of the Earthling characters that actually does train non-stop. That's pretty much all he does. So I think whilst he would have a ceiling, as we know so far, if Toriyama in Super opens his character up more and gives him more story, he's obviously going to get stronger and stronger. So whilst the Earthlings probably don't have a roof, they just can't accelerate and become as strong as quickly as the Saiyans or the Namekians can. So I don't think Tien and Krillin will ever reach the heights that Goku and Vegeta obviously. Well, we already know that's never going to happen. But they would surpass levels that Goku and Vegeta had been in the past. I definitely think that. Would you agree with that?
Well, that's the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the thing that's weird about Tien, specifically him, is that he does not stop training. He trains and trains and trains and trains and trains. Maybe he needs some gravity training, maybe he needs some other training, but he just never even comes close. Like, you can see it in Battle of Gods when Beerus just wiped the floor with him, literally flipped him with a judo throw with chopsticks. It's weird, man. It's very weird that somebody could train so hard. So is it just like is that just the limitations? And we're talking about before Dragon Ball Super. Is that just the limitations of a human being? Like, is Tien at the end of Dragon Ball Z? Because I do believe that Tien Shinhan is stronger than Krillin. I know there's a lot of debate about that. At the end of Dragon Ball Z, Krillin is a civilized family man. Tien is still training. Is Tien stronger? I would say yes. I think he is stronger. Not just that, but if you add in the kind of what I just talked about with Buu and Cell. So again, is that the strongest he's going to get? I feel like it's just that he's fucked. I mean, I gotta be honest. It just seems like he's fucked.
I'll use a bit of non-canon material here. I really always liked that fight in BoJack Unbound where he was fighting Trunks. They seemed rather equal when Trunks was in his base form, but then the second Trunks turned Super Saiyan, it was over. And that's kind of how I always saw the Earthlings. The ones like Tien and Krillin, well, not Krillin obviously doesn't train right through to the end, but Krillin does train for a lot of it up until the Buu arc. The ones who train, they probably could hold up pretty well against the guys in their base form. And I know a lot of people are going to have a problem with me saying that. They like to think that even the base Saiyans like God tier compared to the other Z fighters, which is fine if you think like that. But I think that yes, while say base Goku and base Vegeta would still be stronger than Tien and Krillin, I think that they could certainly do pretty well against them. If Goku and Vegeta went slightly easy on them, they could certainly put up a good fight against them. And I think we saw that in BoJack Unbound. Trunks wasn't taking Tien completely seriously, and Tien was able to put up a pretty good fight against him. Like I said, it's a non-canon fight, but I just thought that was an interesting point to bring up.
No, it is. It's a very good point, and it's still one of those things where he had no chance. I mean, if Trunks would have hit him with the full power, he had no chance. And it's one of those things where I just wonder, like, that kind of answers our question in a way if humans have a limit, because here we have a guy who meditates, he trains, he's even more of a monk than Krillin, because if you remember Dragon Ball,
yep,
Krillin was pretty much a Buddhist monk. That's where the idea came from. And this guy trains, bro, and he just can't even come close to even like a future Trunks, who by the time we get to Fakatsu no F, with all due respect, future Trunks ain't shit compared to like the Beerus's and the Golden Freezes of the world. So it's just weird, that's the case. So is it just a thing where it's just the Saiyajin genes and their genetic makeup that makes them so strong? Because even Piccolo, I'm sure, trained and he couldn't hit those levels either, especially in Revival of F.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, to be perfectly honest with you, the Saiyan gene would play a big part, guys, because they do get, even if they don't like fight and get injured, I remember Vegeta saying at certain parts in the manga, and Goku said as well, they get stronger after every battle.
That's
they don't
right.
say when they don't say when they get hurt. They don't always say when they're on the brink of death. It's after every fight or after every battle.
Fight. The brink of death gives them a bigger boost than each individual fight. That's in the manga.
Yeah, and I think another hint is some of Frieza's comments on Namek, how he says when Zarbon and Dodoria are afraid of how powerful Vegeta has gotten, they see Vegeta's power against Qui, and they question how Vegeta has gotten so strong, and Frieza says, are you really surprised when Vegeta's constantly on the front line fighting? And that kind of is another suggestion that if you're constantly a Saiyan, if you're a Saiyan and you're constantly fighting, you're going to keep getting stronger. And I've also heard Vegeta say that the longer they fight, the stronger they get.
Yeah.
So there's another thing.
No, and I remember I got into a little like back and forth debate on YouTube with he has a really long name, Pritchard X Gamer Girl, and he was talking about this, and that what I was going to tell Pritchard actually is just that very thing too, that they do get stronger, not necessarily a super Zenkai boost. I call all of that a Zenkai boost. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the terminology I'm using is wrong, but they do get stronger. In fact, Frieza himself said that one of the things he feared about the Saiyan race was that if they get together, then with the ability to kind of become stronger, they could pose a threat. And it's interesting because a lot of people will say, oh, well, Frieza blew up Planet Vegeta with ease. And that's true. He blew it up in his first form with ease. Nobody's denying that. But what he's saying is if these guys keep fighting, not Vegeta and Nappa, not Radix, not Bardock or Kakaroto, who he didn't even know existed, who is the guy who eventually beat him. He's talking about all of them. If they all continue to fight and they all ganged up on him, even if they couldn't unlock the SSJ form, even if they just teamed up against him, he would be in trouble. And that's why he blew up the planet. It's one of the reasons why he blew up the planet in the original manga and the original story. So it seems to be just like you said, part of their gene. Now, last question before we get out of here. Last topic, I guess you can say, about Ubu being the strongest human. Do you think it's fair to judge him with the other humans because he is essentially a reincarnation of Kid Buu or Majin Buu or the original Majin Buu? In other words, what I'm trying to ask is he even really human? I mean, he's born of a human, but he's got this unusually high power level because of who he was in a previous life, which is the first time that's actually happened in Dragon Ball.
Yeah, well, we know that he's the reincarnation of Buu. So the thing there is that he's born a human, but he has the power of Buu. So technically he is the strongest Earthling, but I don't think it is fair to put him up against Krillin, Tien or Yamcha because it's obviously not a fair fight. He would just destroy them inside seconds.
Well, what I meant is comparing them as far as like, is he in the same kind of human? And I think the answer is no, because he's a reincarnation. He's the first character I can remember in Dragon Ball, the first and maybe the last, we'll see, that is a reincarnation of a previous character who retains some of the power. Because I don't think Ubu's as strong as Kid Buu. I think the idea is that if Ub trains with Goku, then he'll be able to eventually reach those levels, if not more. That's what I think they kind of implied.
Yeah, well, Goku, you can tell Goku's motives there from reading the story and the manga is he really wanted Buu to kind of basically, he wanted Buu for his own selfish reasons in a way. He wanted to fight Buu and train with Buu. I'm talking about Ubu here, sorry. But at the same time, he wanted him to take over the mantle, I kind of feel, in a way. And that's interesting that Toriyama didn't, even though Toriyama wasn't involved in GT, it's very interesting that GT didn't even take that kind of that direction with that character, because
Goku time, brother.
Yeah, it was definitely at the end of that arc. It was definitely portrayed in Z that Ub was going to grow up and be the Earth's protector like Goku.
Well, one thing I will add to what you said is that one of the things I do agree with you about 100% about this is that I think they dropped the ball with GT in that sense, in that I think that you're right. I think even though you could have kept Goku as the main good guy, I think that Oob should have been like, instead of it being like Goku, Trunks, and Pan, I could have easily seen it as being Goku, Oob, and Pan, or Goku, Oob, and Trunks. I just don't know why they kind of left him behind. It really doesn't make any sense because, like you said, he was being positioned as the next big guy, and I think he really got the short end of the stick. I mean, what the fuck did Oob do in GT? He fused with Fat Boo again to create Super Oob, I guess is what you can call it, and then he still did the job to freaking baby, whatever, and it was like, it's like, then what? He didn't even fight like the dragons or nothing. They literally they did him worse than maybe not worse than Yamcha, because there's no dead Ubu toy out there right now, at least not yet, but they did him pretty badly, I would say. I know a lot of people got mad at Gohan and Piccolo and how they were kind of forgotten about. I think Oob should be right in there if you even include GT. If you don't, then who cares?
Yeah. Well, GT has some good things and bad things to come out of it, but they definitely stuffed up with that. They should have made Pan more prominent and given her maybe Super Saiyan, and given Oob a main more role and taken Trunks out and given Trunks a backseat. And obviously, being a fanboy of Vegeta should have had more time on screen as well, because he is a main character. But that aside, I think, Z, Super... I get the feeling Super is not going to give Oob any more character development, and I'll tell you why. I think Super is going to take place before the events of the end of Z, and then after the events of Fakatsu no F. That's really where I see it happening. So I don't think Oob's going to get character development. I don't even think Oob's going to be in there at all. That's just my opinion. That's speculation. But
by the time this video goes up, and we might already know, though.
Yeah, we might. Yeah, so that could be corrected. But I honestly think that's when it's going to be set. Don't quote me on that, guys, but I think it's going to be after Fakatsu no F towards the end of Z, and that's Oob's not going to be in it at all.
Well, we'll see. I actually hope that's not the case. I don't want that because it kills the whole drama of them even doing another. It's just there's no point.
I agree 100%, but we all know what Toei are like, and we all know what Toriyama can be like with his writing, so...
I'm just honestly, bro, I'm to the point now where I just want this thing to hurry up and start to see where it goes, because it's just, I'm the more time passes, the more I'm kind of worried they're gonna screw this up, because when you're talking about storytelling as a storyteller, making new Dragon Ball stories is not that easy unless you go really off the wall. And I made a video talking about how they do a Crisis of Infinite Earths thing where all the universes are in danger, something like that they could do, but I don't know if Toei and if Toriyama was willing to think outside the box that much. So now we're talking about a real major event, which we haven't seen in quite some time in Dragon Ball. In fact, if you really think about it, if they did something like this where every universe is in danger from some really evil being, we've never seen anything like that before. It's always been the Earth, it's always been the galaxy in some cases. With Boo, it was both realms were in trouble. Now we're talking about all the realms. So let's make the stakes even higher. That's the way I see it, because that's really it. To be totally honest with you, if let's say they do go that route and they do make it like that, that's going to be the end of Dragon Ball. I can't see them doing any more stories after that because nothing can get any bigger than that. You know what I mean? Unless it takes place like a prequel or at a different timeline. I just don't see them doing anything bigger than that. But we'll see what happens, man. We'll see. It's just that these Dragon Ball stories cannot go on forever, and I'm just hoping that somebody over there in Japan really, really has a bright idea that could make this thing explode.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I'm not saying I don't want Oob to be in it. I'm just saying I simply don't think he will be in it.
No, maybe Toriyama about him too.
Yeah, and I agree with everything you've just said. Yeah, that would be awesome to take it onto a universal scale in terms of fights. That'd be awesome.
It needs to be done, really. All right, well, thanks again, Jay, for being here for Talk Dragon Ball. Check out Super Jayain's channel. Again, thank you for listening, guys. Y'all have a great one, and catch you down the road.